Welcome back to BenUnlocked for episode 3 of Football Manager 26. Now we're trying to take Colne FC to the football leagues and potentially beyond. And here at the very start of our episode, we've got the club vision meeting. They want us to work within a bit of wage budget, play attacking football, play possession football, play entertaining football, play high tempo pressing football. And within the 5-year plan, they want us to maintain a top half finish at the regional division. I think that's fair. So let's accept. And then do we want to try and push it any further? I mean, just noticing the transfer budget, we're currently got 47,000. If we actually say we're going to reach the playoffs, then we get an extra 500. And we've got a wage budget available of 2,600. Now, of course, what we do want to do is we do want to get promoted as quickly as possible. And it has been going well so far. However, it doesn't mean things are always going to go well. And we have to start trying to be a little realistic of whether we want to say we're going to finish in the top half, or in this instance, if we're going to reach the playoffs. Now, I don't think the playoffs are going to be too difficult to achieve, so let's pick that. Now, similar thing when it comes to these lower leagues and everybody's not on an actual contract, people will be trying to be poached from everywhere. As you can see for messages just like the one on the screen now. Now, Pinchbeck United want Louis Bonsa. Now, Louis Bonsa, we want to try and keep hold of. He's a young lad and he's got very decent potential. The thing that works in our favour here is that it said he's got no interest in joining Pinchbeck United, but he is willing to enter preliminary talks to see if they can convince him to join. Now, if everybody's in the same situation as we are, they're going to have to offer him something decent in terms of bonuses or a decent financial package. So at this moment, I'm not too worried. There's a similar thing there for Brad Rose. Now he's only a 1.5 potential 3. So if he really has to go, we'll get a young kid in to fill the goalkeeper requirements that we'll have. And if we want to look at where we're at in terms of staff, we can see here we've got 3 coaches that we can fill. We can actually now have a head of performance analyst too, and we can try and flesh out the scouts that we've got available. And adding an extra physio will be very helpful, especially if we get a few injuries along the way. So I'll get us to the point where we've started the season, give an update on where we are in terms of financially, any players that we might have left, any players we might bring in. Okay, so fast forwarding a little bit then into the next season that we've got here. We've actually got 15 players in this time with a 5,000 transfer fee. So this is the start really where we're going to start spending some money. We've also had 8 players leave us. And again, as you can see from most of the players that we've got in, you can see that they're free agents again, which is pretty typical for where we are at the moment. And a number of these have played most of our games so far. The latest being Marley Wilson. I mean, we're currently at the start of October, and this was mid-September. So taking a look at Marley Wilson then, he's one of our centre forwards, but can also play as the attacking mid on either side. Now, he's a 4-star with a 4-star potential, so he's likely to be about as good as he's going to get. If you look then at where he's been and where his career's taken him, you can see he's actually started at Leeds United. I mean, he's 21 years old, so he went through the academy at Leeds. He left on a free to Wrexham, then to Real Bedford on a trial, and then to ourselves. And in the 2 games that he's appeared, he's scored 3 and assisted 1. Now, you can imagine that the 8.1 rating is a direct result of that. Hasn't really played enough games yet for that to be fully accurate of where he is. Now, you can see that he did actually play for Leeds once in the Premier League, but only had a 6 rating. And I think that probably shows just about where he is. He's not a Premier League player. Probably not even a championship player, given the fact that he never played for Wrexham. And if then we have a look here at Luca Davis, he's on £70 a week, so less than the keeper, with a better current ability and better potential. Now he's 20 years old, so what we want to try and do is make him maximise the potential that he has. And if you notice at the top, these players are starting to get a value attributed to them. And that's purely because they're on part-time contracts. Looking further then at Luca's playing history, he's actually been through the academy at Everton. Now, he's never played for them in either of the seasons that he's been there, apart from some non-competitive games, which I can only imagine are the pre-season friendlies. He's then moved on a free to ourselves. He's appeared 9. He's actually scored and assisted 1 and been player of the match 2. And he's rating at 7. Then if we have a look at Joe Catsby, he's currently a 3-star with a 4.5 potential and he's 20 years old. You can see the theme appearing here with the younger players with decent potential for where we are at the minute. Now, Joel at the minute isn't actually on a contract with us. He's just on a non-contract deal. So this is probably a player we need to start looking at unless we're going to replace him with someone better. Looking at his career again, he started in the academy at Everton. And looking at it, he's actually played through the non-competitive games for them too. Actually, in the 25-26 season, he actually appeared 9 times and scored 2. Then he moved on a free to Carlisle, and then he moved on a free to ourselves, and he's played 9 times, scored 5, assisted 3, and been player of the match once. And not a bad rating of 7.3. Then we get Harvey Andrews. Now, you can see at the minute that Harvey's actually suspended for the next match because he's picked up some yellows. Plays on the right-hand side of our defence. He has got some limited experience on the left, and he's actually played in defensive midfield too on a rare occasion. Now, he's a 4-star. Unfortunately, actually, he's not got a 5-star potential, given that he's only 18. Now, he's actually on quite a big wage for where we are at £140 per week. But again, this is trying to tie down some of our squad. And if we take a look at where he's come from, well, he's actually come from Nottingham Forest's academy. And he's played quite a lot when you look at the stats below. 31 games there and 23 there. And again, it's saying that they're non-competitive. Given that in the season previous to this, he'd actually scored 5 goals, assisted 3, which is not bad for a defender. So taking a look then at the fixtures, our pre-season friendlies actually went really well this time, unlike the previous seasons where they were a little bit rocky. We actually lost only once against Hallam. And then before we'd actually played a single league game, we started to get the FA Cup preliminary rounds. And we actually played against Sheffield and we won. Now through August, we won every game but against the one against Ramsbottom. Again, we won the first qualifying round game against Brighouse Town and the preliminary against Brockton in the FA Cup. Then the FA Trophy came around. We played Guysborough Town and won away. And again, it was dominated really by the cups. So we had the FA Cup second qualifying round against Padiham. We absolutely destroyed them. Ashington, we won 2-1 in the FA Trophy. We drew it against Mossley. And then we won against Stockton Town in the FA Cup's third qualifying round. And you can see there's a couple of really big scoring games. We'd scored 6. We'd actually then scored 8 at FC St Helens. And our next games and next month, again, we have 2 more games here that should get the club some money. In the FA Trophy third round side and the fourth qualifying round against Oxford. We take a look at where we're sitting in the league then. You would expect us to be top. Now, the teams below us, a lot of them have actually played more games than we have. With Ramsbottom in second, who are on the same points, but they've played 3 more games. Currently, we've won 8, we've drawn 1, and we've lost 1. And we've actually scored 34 goals and just had 8 against us, giving us a very healthy goal difference, which is why we're top. Looking at some of our very local teams that we've got our local rivals in Clitheroe, Bamber Bridge, and Ramsbottom that aren't actually too far away, in fairness. Clitheroe are only on 18 points, Bamber Bridge on 17. And then if we want to have a look at where our current budgets are, well, at the minute, albeit I can see us possibly changing this and adjusting the budget slightly, we've got 12,500 transfer budget available to us, and a wage budget currently of 120 per week. You can see we've done quite a bit of scouting. So turning to the financials then, we've got £133,000 in the bank. Now you can see from the graph that it actually takes quite a serious dip. Now this is purely because we decided to actually ask the board to improve our training facilities. And then again, when we look at the wages, you can see where we're spending our money. Now, if we've got 6 players that are with fringes and there's £213, I might want to look at that and see who we might want to get rid of. But if we look at last month, we brought in a total of £51,000. And then when we look at last month's expenditure, it was only 32.8. Now, most of this will be down to the cup competitions, as this is a healthy source of income at this level. If we just look at the activity of who we might actually get in, we've actually put a contract out for Thomas Old, who's a 19-year-old centre-back. Now, when we look at Thomas, he can play on as centre-back, but he can also play on the right if we have to. And when we actually look at where he comes from, well, he's actually at Newcastle United. Hasn't actually played much for them yet in the leagues, but he has actually played otherwise. So we'll see where this can bring us. If we have a very quick look at where we're at in terms of the squad and the abilities, you can see the goalkeeper's not too great. Now, we have actually offered one of our keepers out, but I might actually rescind this. And the centre-back looks like a position that we need some quality, hence why we're going for the player that we are. The only other one that concerns me slightly is the attacking mid on the left hand, with just 2 stars of potential average. But when we look at the depth, it's actually pretty strong in terms of players, so we must have a lot now that we need to start trying to move on. And when you look at this, you can see that there's 3 or 4 players that we could potentially get rid of altogether, or at very least loan them out. Okay, so fast forwarding then to the end of the season. Well, after 42 games played, we won 29, we drew 6, and we lost 7. We scored over 100 goals and conceded just 37. You can see why we ended up with a point difference of 10 between ourselves and Bamber Bridge. Now, it's quite interesting when you look at the other team that was promoted. Now, this is one of our locals in Clitheroe, not far away at all, just on the other side of Pendle Hill. Now, the last time that we spoke, when it looked at fixtures, we were actually in October of 27. At the end of the season, then, when we look at October, how did that go? Well, again, you can see that we had a very, very strong run in October with just 1 loss against 1874 Northwich. Within this, we had another 4 games within cups, 2 in the Emirates FA Cup and 2 in the Isuzu FA Trophy. We actually started to get into the first proper rounds of each. Followed by the fixtures then in November. This wasn't as strong as the month previous, where we've won just 3, 1 in penalties at a 0-0 in normal regulation time. We've drawn 3 and we've lost 1. Arguably, this was our worst month. Then moving on to December, when we've got the FA Cup second round against Burton Albion, and we narrowly won that 3-2. The Isuzu FA Trophy third round against Guiseley, we won again on penalties, so we're cutting it a little bit fine. Our loss then in December came just before New Year's, and that was against Ramsbottom United with a 1-0 win. January, the results picked back up again, and we actually played Wrexham in the FA Cup third round, and we won 1-0. Before going to the Isuzu FA Trophy fourth round and the fifth round against South Shields and Altrincham, winning both, 1 away and 1 at home. February again was very strong. We won most of our games, albeit had 1 loss against Glossop North End. We actually played Nottingham Forest and won 2-0 away. And within this game, as you can see on the right here, we actually had a player sent off. So we were actually down to 10 men against a very strong opposition side. A classic cup upset. Before moving then on to March, and you can see where we had to bow out of the FA Cup. We simply do not have a squad to be able to contend in the fifth round, and especially not against top teams like Newcastle. Looking at the semi-final for the Isuzu Trophy, we actually played Chelmsford City and beat them 2-1. April again turned into a little bit more rocky, with 2 wins, 2 losses, before finishing the season in May, winning 4-1 in the Isuzu FA Trophy final against Alfreton Town. If we see what those cup runs have actually done to our finances then, well, what you can see on the left-hand side here is that our current balance is 935,000. Our income is 8,300 and our expenditure at 38,600. Digging further then, these budgets are set up for next season, so we can't particularly talk about them right now. But if we have a look at our balances, you can see that within this month, we've had 180,000 in and 38 out. Now, gate receipts account for quite a portion of this. Now, from the fixture list, we actually played at the neutral ground for the trophy final, which will be Wembley. And then if we have a look then at the expenditure and why it's so high, well, we've started to get our player wages, as you know. That's cost us 4,200. Bonuses have been 5,400. And then we've got a lovely bit of tax of 22,000 for the month. This next season, I think we'll be trying to ask for some more facility upgrades or potentially even a modest upgrade for the stadium at Holt House. Some of the bigger games we are starting to sell out, and this would only help hand in hand with an increased reputation. More people want to come and see us. We'll get some more money in. We'll increase the revenue base. And you can actually see we spent nearly 51,000 in scouting, a lot more than what we have previously. I've been BenUnlocked. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.